Okay, so turn to page 36D in your Chapter 9 packet. And the focus of this lesson is going to be factoring out your GCF first before you try to factor a trinomial. Now let's suppose I didn't notice that 8 was the GCF for this. First of all, I should notice something's up, because 16 times negative 24 equals negative 384. And to find two numbers that multiply to equal negative 384 and add up to negative 8 is pretty difficult. It turns out, I noticed that 16 and 24, negative 24, are negative 8 apart. So the numbers are 16 and 24. So it's going to be a positive 16, negative 24, positive 16, negative 24. But I got lucky because 384 is pretty big. And hopefully you don't want me to give you trinomials you have to factor with numbers that big. So I'm going to say 16x squared minus 24x plus 16x minus 24, because my magic numbers are 16 and negative 24. Now I'm going to factor by grouping, and I'm going to, in this one, factor out an 8x. I get 2x minus 3. And here I'm going to factor out an 8, and I get 2x minus 3. So I end up with 8x plus 8 times 2x minus 3, and I think I'm fine. But in fact, this is not fully factored, because you always need to check your binomials and see if they have a common factor. Now I have a common factor here, and it's 8. So now I have to factor out the 8 from that binomial, and this is my final answer. And this is correct. But it's much easier if I would have factored out the 8 to start with. So I wrote this twice on the paper, so you can do it once the wrong way, and now let's do it again the right way. This time I'm going to say, hey, look, there's an 8. I'm going to factor out an 8. Now this is so much easier to factor, because now I'm looking for two numbers that when multiplied equal negative 6, but add up to equal negative 1, and that's going to be negative 3, positive 2, negative 3, positive 2. So now, the only thing is you have to be careful, and remember you have the 8. You might even want to go to your answer key and put an 8 there so you don't forget that there was a factor of 8. And now I'm going to write 2x squared minus 3x plus 2x minus 3. I'm going to factor by grouping, and here I'm going to take out an x, and I get 2x minus 3, and here I'll take out a 1, I get 2x minus 3. So I end up with x plus 1 times 2x minus 3. So I end up with the same answer, but it was so much easier when I factored the 8 out first. Okay, so now let's look at number 3, and we're going to first look and see if there's anything we can factor out. So here, I notice I can factor out a 2. So before I do anything else, I factor out a 2. So now I'm looking for two numbers that when multiplied give me negative 90, but add up to negative 1, and that's going to be negative 10 and positive 9. So again, instead of worrying about this 2, I'm going to go to my answer line and put it there. And now I'm going to ignore it because I already put it on the answer line. So I'm going to rewrite this as 2n squared. Instead of putting minus n, I'm going to put negative 10n plus 9n, which adds up to negative n, minus 45. Now, I factor by grouping. Take out a 2. Sorry, I take out a 2n. And I get n minus 5. And I take out a 9, and I get n minus 5. And this ends up being 2n plus 9 times n minus 5. Okay? So now, let's look at number 4. And for number 4, again, I can factor out a 2. So I factor out a 2, and now I'm looking for two numbers that when multiplied equal positive 28, but add up to negative 11, and that's going to be negative 7 and negative 4. I'm going to put 2 at the bottom on my answer line and not worry about it now. So now I'm going to take my trinomial and write it as a 4-term polynomial. So I can factor by grouping. Notice I make sure my negative 4 stays with my binomial and not on the outside. I factor out 7x and I get 4x minus 1. Factor out a negative 1 and I get 4x minus 1. So I get 7x minus 1 times 4x minus 1. Okay? Now, you might want to go try to finish these on your own. Do 5, 6, 7, and 8 on your own. And then stop the video and turn it back on to check your answers. So, the answer to number 5 is 4 times 4s minus 1 times s plus 3. Number 6 is 5 times 2x plus 7 times x minus 5. Number 7 is 5x minus 9y times 2x plus 3y. And number 8 is 4m plus 5n times m plus n. Okay? Now, I'm going to go over number 7, because number 7 and number 8 did not have a greatest common factor, but they had double variables. So if any of you were confused on the double variables, continue to watch this video, and I'm going to go over number 7. But everybody should copy down these correct answers before you stop the video. Okay, so for number 7, 10x squared minus 3xy minus 27y squared. Now, when you have a situation where you have the first term is an x squared, the last term is a y squared, but the middle term is xy, I find the easiest way to factor this is I go down here and I put a y and a y in my answer. Because I know the last two terms have to multiply to become y squared. Then I remove the y and I just factor it this way. And let me show you what happens. So I'm looking for two numbers that when multiplied equal negative 270, but add up to negative 3. And these two numbers are negative 18 and 15, negative 18 and 15. Okay? Now, if you had problems finding those numbers, let me show you what you could have done. You could have done a factor tree. 27 I know is 3 times 3 times 3. This is times 5 times 2. I know that my numbers have to be multiples of a 3, 3, 3, 5, and 2. So I can group them. 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 3 is 27. That's not going to give me negative 23. So let me try 3 times 5 is 15. 9 times 2 is 18. Is there any way I can group a 15 and an 18 to get a negative 3? Yes, I can make it negative 18, positive 3. So whenever you have problems coming up with the factors, do a factor tree and play with the factors. Now, I'm going to do 10x squared minus 18x plus 15x minus 27. Factor by grouping. I take out a 2x. I get 5x minus 9 plus 3, and I get 5x minus 9. And my answer is 2x plus 3 times 5x minus 9. But notice now I had already put the y's there. And if you FOIL this, and we go back to our original equation, This will give you negative 27y squared. This will give you 15xy minus 18xy, which is negative 3xy. So this is a trick to handle double variables. Now this will only work if the first term is squared, the last term is squared, and the middle term includes one of each.